Good evening, everybody. My name is Quant, and like Davinia said, I was here a few months ago. But this evening, I am joined by my special guest, my lovely husband,
Lovely.
Mr. Ethan Quant. Yes, clap it up. So Ethan had the option to choose his host, and I was actually very surprised that he chose me because he says that I like to fact check him on things. But tonight he's going to be sharing some of his failures, some of his lessons, some of his successes that he's had in his almost 2 decades of entrepreneurship. And he's been in 3 different industries over the last almost 2 decades. He started off in finance, transitioned into fitness, and then now where he's at into media. And anything else you'd like me to mention in your introduction?
You just keep talking and looking at it.
All right, so Mr. Quant, I do have some questions, by the way. I have some questions that are going to guide the conversation, but if you have questions, you have something you want to add, something you maybe want to share, we want you to feel free to stop us, ask your questions. We also want to get to know you a little bit as well and kind of why you're here, right? What are you hoping to get from tonight's session? If you're here just to support him, that's awesome too. But if you have something you want to get from tonight, we encourage you to join in the conversation, ask your questions, share what you are doing or your goals as well. And we're going to dive right in. You ready?
Born ready.
We got 21 questions.
21 questions.
Actually 20, but. All right, so Mr. Quant, how did you get your start as an entrepreneur? And I want you to share with us what inspired you to pursue business ownership in the first place.
Officially, I didn't really grow up in an entrepreneurial family. My mom was a bookkeeper at a travel agency, but she had a side hustle. We call it now side hustle. She's a pastry chef by trade. And I was always fascinated because with her, she would go to work Monday through Friday, and she'd actually make more money on the weekends selling guava duff and different pastries and cakes and stuff. But she never had the confidence to go full time. She didn't have the courage to go full time. And it was only later that I had the courage to ask her, like, why didn't she ever go full time? And she said, well, because it was job security. And that was right around the time I was deciding, I was kind of contemplating whether or not I was going to leave. So like Dekel said, I got my start in banking. I was at a commercial bank, started off as a teller and then eventually became one of the youngest loan officers and the top performing loan officers in the region by the time I was about 22. And I was doing loans, so mortgages, car loans, things like that. And I remember this would have been around 2000, late 2006. The bank was in a bit of a liquidity crunch, and we needed to raise $40 million regionally. So it was one of those commercial banks. It's a Canadian bank, but they had different presence in different jurisdictions around the region. And so throughout the Caribbean region, we needed to raise $40 million. And I'll never forget, I brokered a $1.7 million deal, taking it from a competitor's bank and bringing it into ours. And our target for the branch at the time was about $450,000 as a branch. And so I brought in $1.7 million one shot. And, I'm feeling good about myself. And I remember we used to have this thing called the Star Player Award that they would present to, the star player every week. And so at our weekly sales meeting, the branch manager comes up and he said, our award recipient, smashed the country targets. He killed it. We brought in 1.7 million one shot. And he called me up and he's, talking and, kind of sweetening me up and telling everybody how awesome a job I did. And I was just looking at that envelope that he was tapping in his hand. And, he gave me the envelope and he said, you know what, Ethan, thank you. We really appreciate you. And you did such an awesome job. This is a token of our appreciation. 1.7 million, branch target is about 450,000. So I ran back to my little cubicle, opened up the envelope, and there's a $25 meal voucher. Right? And I was like, I can't even carry a gal out for $25. But it was a $25 meal voucher. And I just looked at it and I was like, all right, clock starts now. Because prior to, we used to call him the golden boy at the bank, he was frustrated because he was exceeding sales targets. He had made like his annual sales targets in like the first quarter. And he told the bank that he wanted an assistant to help him with the paperwork. And they told him no. And he was like, I've already made, $900,000 this year for the bank. If I was an independent broker, I would have carried home at least $135,000, 1.5% of that. And I was like, what? That's like $1 million. And so that kind of planted the seed about this independent broker thing. And I remember thinking, wow, at 1.7 million, what I would have carried would have been 1% of that. And I was like, the clock started ticking. And that's when I started really thinking about leaving the bank. That's when I decided to leave. But I had to plan my exit. And so it took me about close to a year before I actually left. And I left the bank and I opened up a mortgage brokerage. And Lord knows I didn't want to be the best, like the world's best mortgage broker. That wasn't my desire. I liked it because it was good and I was helping people and working with people, but it wasn't my desire to be like, I want to be the world's best broker. And so I transitioned into that because it was the easiest thing to do. I was doing mortgages at the bank. I was very good at it. I took about 4 or 5 months to start siphoning off some of my clients, making sure I had my list. And the thing is, my office was literally next door to the bank. And so for the last 3 months, I would take my lunch break and then I would go into the office and start making calls as my company. And then in August 2007, I actually left the bank to go full time into my first business at 24. And so it was really that I want to kind of control my own destiny. Like I don't feel as though the bank was going to pay me what I was worth. I love the fact that, I could make as much money as I could make. Performance-based pay. If anybody that's worked off commission knows the same thing. Real estate agents have to do it. Sales reps have to do it. You literally eat what you kill. And so I did that. At the time, I was about 306 pounds. It was very stressful. I ate my stress. And that's when I kind of started that transition into
We ain't there yet.
Oh, we ain't there yet?
No.
Where we is?
We ain't there yet.
All right, so where we is?
I just asked you what inspired you to start.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. So what inspired me to start my first business was really just kind of wanting to make what I could make based on my own efforts. I didn't want my birthday month to come in, and I was still at the bank. So my birthday was 3 days ago, September 15th. Happy birthday. And I remember my manager was actually on vacation. He was on 2 weeks vacation. And so it was around the 15th, 16th of August. I drove by his house to give him my resignation letter.
Oh, wow. It's classy.
And so I was like, I'm out. But the reality is that, my team is on salary, right? But we do have a sales component that it's written into their contract. Any percentage, they get a percentage of any deals that we close. And close for us is, depending on the deal, like we don't even have to get 100% of the payment. Once the initial deposit is paid, immediately, we do. This is something that I took from the bank. We get paid. We do payroll on the 15th and the 30th. But if client comes in, it was their client, and literally it's just a referral, right? Because we still close it, but if the client comes in and pays on the 6th, they get their percentage on the 6th. And so I wanted to structure, even though everybody's on team, sales isn't like a part of their function, but everybody has the opportunity because I do believe in performance-based compensation. And so, literally that's what I do to address that. So if you do come in and you do bring in a client, you get that. And yeah, as we grow, that aspect would become a little bit more sophisticated, but that's where we're at right now.
They have a bar too.
Yeah, we have a bar. Yeah, we do have it's a pretty sweet bar too.
They have an open bar at the office too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. We talked about what inspired you to get started or to pursue business ownership. And I mentioned when I introduced you that you started off in finance. You kind of touched on that. You were getting ready to go into the fitness transition. I did have to stop you. I know you don't need any prompts to keep going. But talk us through the transition. I know you didn't want to be, you said mortgage brokerage was a natural progression from the bank. Right. You were in banking and you were doing mortgages already. You were in mortgage brokerage for how long before you mentioned you were stressed out, you had put on some weight while you were doing that first business. You were how old at this point?
Well, I started at 24, so I was in the business for about 4 years.
4 years.
3.5, 4 years when I made the decision to start getting in shape.
Okay, so you're now about 28.
Yeah, 29, yeah.
Okay, so those 4 years in mortgage brokerage, did you love what you did?
I love the aspects of it. I love the fact that I was helping people realize a dream of home ownership. Like, as a mortgage broker, our function is to really shop the client's application around to get them the best deal for the bank. And so they don't necessarily have to go into the bank. So they don't have to go to a Scotia or Royal Bank, First Caribbean. Like, literally, they come to us and we facilitate that process. So we do all that legwork for them.
You say us. Was it you and a team, or was it you?
It was me and my 3 personalities. I didn't have a team. At some points throughout the business, I had a commission sales team of about 20 people. But it was primarily myself and an assistant. Maybe about 2 years in, I got an assistant.
Okay.
But I had, commission sales people who really never really used to do much, but paid my head. But I mean, that's one of the things. It's always us. Even when it was just me, it was us.
It was
yeah,
us.
I always referred to my business as us. And funny story, because I was 24, I conducted a lot. Now, keep in mind, like I said, this is pre-Facebook. So this is 2007, pre-social media, pre-Instagram. And so I conducted a lot of my business over the phone and using the fax machine. So like where you would send an e-blast or, you would boost a post on Instagram, I would literally get yellow pages, print out a flyer, and I would stand there and fax, cold fax businesses in there in hopes that somebody would be walking past and see it. But yeah, it was always me doing that kind of stuff just to try and break in. I perfected cold calling. I would just call up random businesses, random people. Hey, this is what we're doing. Have you heard about us? No. Oh, I need to fire my marketing manager because they aren't doing a good job. So it was always that.
Okay. So 4 years in, you talk me through that that transition from, okay, I'm in mortgage brokerage. I enjoy it, but it's not my passion, right? I like what I do to a degree. And the next business was the fitness that transitioned into corporate wellness. So talk me through that next.
Well, so this would have been maybe about 2012.
Okay.
Now, when I like really committed to making the transition. So call it 2011. I went to a friend's wedding, and you know they have the photographer there taking pictures, and there was a picture of me, and I saw that picture of me, and I looked like a basketball with glasses, like legit. I was there, hair was still kind of curly, and it was just a round face with glasses, and I was taking a picture with the phone, and I saw that, and I was just disgusted with myself. I was like, this is how I look. This is how I present myself to the world. Um, and I was like, I don't like that. And so this would have been late 2011. And then 2012, I went to my first ever bodybuilding show in Freeport. And I was just amazed. I was like, my greatness, like I've never seen bodies like that. And I definitely didn't think that we had bodies like that in the Bahamas. And there, so this would have been like July 2012. And there I decided that by 2013, I wanted to be a competitive bodybuilder. I decided that I was going to compete right then. And that really jump-started my journey. My first fitness program was a six-week shred from a Men's Health magazine that I stole out of the doctor's office. I went to the doctor because I was having pain in my back, and he pretty much said, you know, you fat. That's why you're having pain in your back.
That's what the doctor told you?
Pretty much. He said it in Dr. Nees.
Not as mean
He's
as
like,
that.
well, you know, and he's like, so I fat. He's like, yeah. But I was having some severe pain in my back. And he's like, well, you know, you need to lose weight. And while I was there for a follow-up, I saw the Men's Health magazine, literally as a 6-week shred. I didn't steal the whole magazine.
You just took that part
I just
out.
tore that part out. And that was my first
So
fitness
considerate.
program. That was my first fitness program. And then that morphed into or evolved into, you know, me really getting into hardcore training. And throughout that process, I lost 110 pounds. And I was on stage the following year in 2013. And in 2014, I won Mr. Bahamas. So I had the best body in the country in 2014. And then I went on to CAC the following year and had the 5th best body in the Caribbean and Latin America. Again, back there now. Yeah. So that was my fitness journey. And then I was like, you know, while I was, you know, starting and getting into working out, and I was like, I like this a lot. Like, I need to figure out how I can get paid to work out. And that was literally how I got into the fitness industry. I didn't want to help people lose weight or, you know, get in shape or get healthy. I was just like, how can I get paid so that I can work out? And I launched my fitness business. And in late October 2012, I dissolved my brokerage.
Okay.
And in, well, March 2012, I actually sold my first fitness program. It's like, oh, you looking so good, you doing stuff, what you doing? You could write me a program. And I was like, yes. He's like, how much? I was like, $100. And he paid me $100. So I was like, this is a real business now. And so it took me a while, but in, like I said, October, I actually dissolved the brokerage and went into fitness full time. The thing is, I like I said, you know, so keep in mind now, I'm 29, 28, 29. I didn't even know that you could sell businesses in the Bahamas. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. And so, you know, it was just like, you know, and the business was doing good. Like, I was eating off of it, right? You know, I was able to pay my mortgage, you know, my daughter at the time. And while all this is going on, you know, I had a very young daughter, you know. And so it was just like, I just didn't, like, I didn't want to do it. I wanted to do fitness. And so I figured out, if I'm going to close, I needed to figure out how I can make money doing fitness so that I could not do the mortgage brokerage. And that's when I started my second company, Elite Fitness. And I mean, it was an awesome journey there as well.
I want to ask, before we move on to the next question, or the next part B of the fitness. Would you consider, we're talking about the brokerage, the decision to dissolve it opposed to selling it or trying to keep both going. Would you consider the mortgage brokerage a failure in your entrepreneurial journey?
It's funny because I honestly have, I don't think I look at failure as a lot of people look at failure, with a negative connotation attached. I even defining failure, right? I really honestly and truly look at things like, okay, well, this didn't work for whatever reason. And so I just have to continue to find something that works. So I don't necessarily know if it was a failure. I mean, it could be, okay, well, because the business wasn't necessarily losing money. We were still, profitable. We were still making money. I just didn't like it. And so it's as much of a failure as if you order a dish from a restaurant and you take 2 bites and you're like, I don't like this, so I'm not going to finish eating it. But, the lessons that I learned in there as far as business and stuff like that. So, it was just something that the season had passed and I just decided to move on. So I wouldn't consider it a failure. Like you want to have an idea, there's a whole, you want to have a script, right? And when I say a script, you want to know exactly what you're talking about, and you want to anticipate what they're going to say. And, I had a script, but I threw that out of the window after a couple of times, because one time that I called, my script was only for if you didn't want to talk to me. One time I called somebody and they actually wanted to talk to me, and I was lost because a whole lot of my script was trying to convince them to stay on the phone to talk to me.
They
But
threw you a
literally,
curveball.
and I think we tend to overcomplicate things. We have to understand that people ain't, when it comes to cold calls, people ain't waiting for you to call them. They doing stuff, right? They busy. And so literally, hi, my name is, I'm calling from, I used to say, well, have you ever heard of us? No. Well, I need to find my marketing person, ha, ha, ha. This is why I'm calling. It can only take a couple of minutes of your time. And sometimes I never even used to make it that far. But it's just literally, it's volume. And the more you practice, the more you do it, the better you become. And literally that's all it is. It's have a script and just call. Don't overthink it, just call.
We're going to go back to, we're going to finish off the fitness leg. You went from selling individual plans, I know this, individual plans to corporate wellness.
Right.
Talk me through that transition from working with individuals. I know you got that you got a substantial number of clients and business through individual clients, one-on-one coaching. Tell me the decision to now move into corporate.
All right. So I guess to kind of give context with that. So when I started, I didn't really, it was never my intention to train people. So even though I had a fitness company, I never was a personal trainer. I never used to actually do one-on-one personal training. Because even from then I knew it wasn't scalable. There's only a certain amount of people that I could train at a time. And so what I did was I had actual programs. And so my program would be that you would pay me, you could get a 4-week, an 8-week, or 12-week program up to 6 months. And you pay me a certain amount of money. I saw you once at the initial weigh-in, so I'd do your body fat analysis, height, weight, measurements, and then I would give you the program, and you would follow it, and WhatsApp back and forth or whatever, and then every 4 weeks you would come in for another in-person assessment. And I mean, legit, that was my first 6-figure business. I was making 6 figures selling $468 programs for 12 weeks. So the mortgage brokerage, I never break the 6-figure mark. I was making good money for me, because keep in mind, when I was at the bank, I was making $16,000 a year as a loan officer. with no upside, right? Um, I think when I left the bank, I was probably with bonuses up 22,000 a year. So when I got into mortgage brokerage, and I was making $5,000 a month, I was like, wow, this is a lot of money. But my rent in Sandy Port is $2,900 a month, right? And then so I was making more money um, than I was making at the bank, but of course my overhead went up.
Yeah.
When I got into fitness, I was working from home. And so I moved into a nicer place. So my rent was $2,400, but that was workspace, like that was everything, right? And so I would meet clients there, but you making $5, $6, $7,000 a month, like you doing good. So like really the fitness business was the first time I hit six figures in my business. And so, but I never did individual like one-on-one training. I always did programs, and I was doing individual programs. The decision to go to corporate was, okay, well, how can I get more bang for my buck? Like, how can I increase profitability per unit of time sold? And it just made sense, instead of having an individual as a client, having a company as a client, that one company could have 100 individuals that I can charge per individual. And so we did, like I said, and by then I had brought on a partner, I brought on another assistant, so it was maybe about 4 of us working in the business at that time. But like literally, that's the first time I remember like that was the goal. Like if I could do 10,000 a month, I'm rich. Like I retire it. But that was my first six figure business. Like, and the good thing about that is that I had consistent revenue, and I knew from the bank that I would have a like I said, about a $467 program that I would split into 2 payments and add interest, or I split into 3 payments and add interest. So I could say, okay, well, we could do 3 installments, but I'll add 50% on top of that. So each installment was additional 15%. That's compounded. So like I knew that that's information that I took from the bank, and I started doing that. And so, it's like, all right, well, it's easier for somebody to come up with $210 or $160 than $460 something. So I just say, all right, come up with $160, and then we do 3 payments of $160, and I ended up making more than whatever it was, right? And so, but that was the decision to go into corporate, was that I can make more money per client because my client wasn't an individual, it was an institution, and essentially for less work. And that was rough. That was rough because there was a time where, and it was just like, okay, right now we ain't doing no more corporate. We aren't doing any more individual. We just go into like literally cold turkey. That's it. No more individual programs. You go into corporate. And corporate, you're talking 2014, 2015, corporate is a hard sell. They aren't talking about corporate wellness programming and employee wellness and stuff. That's all the rage now. And so we had to really sell corporate on why this is important. Like what, so it was a whole educational process. And so there was a stint where I went from making, like I said, $10,000, $15,000 a month to, maybe $2,500 because I sold a program for 8 weeks. Like it was definitely a pullback. But thinking in the long game, I was like, okay, well, if we get enough traction with this, like it'll be all right. And it did end up turning around. Because then, within a matter of maybe 8 to 10 months, we were negotiating 6-figure contracts for corporate wellness stuff. And so it did kind of pick back up after a while.
It just took a while to get to the point where you needed it to be.
There was a dry spell. Like, there was like maybe about almost a year where it was rough. Like I wasn't making any money. Like it was rough. Well, with the mortgage brokerage back in 2007, there was a a firm that was really dominating the space. There were a couple of people doing it individually, but like I was always fascinated with the firm, having a company. And they were my biggest competitors at the time. But I went to one of the partners before I left, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about getting into the space. Is there any advice that you can give me? And he pretty much told me to carry my ass. He's like, I ain't talking to you. So I went to the other partner, and he's like, oh man, this is awesome. Come on in. And like literally he laid out the whole playbook for me. He opened up their books. He told me this is who I need to talk to at the banks. He did email introductions. And, while he was doing this, I was like, like why? He said, listen, you're young, you got this fire, you coming in. A rising tide lifts all boats. And if you come in and you dominate and you killing it in the industry, that would only be better for the industry, which means it'll be better for us. And literally that's something that's, lived with me like today. Like I believe that. And so like he literally opened up his books. And so at the time that I left, really we were the top firm in the mortgage brokerage industry. And like I said, up until I dissolved it, because there were other people coming up. Like when the Securities Commission defined the mortgage brokerage industry as something that they needed to regulate because it's relatively new, like they called me in and they like asked for my handbook. Like, so we pretty much wrote the book on the industry, and I'm sitting there, I'm 25, 26 with the Securities Commission and like 7 of these guys. And it was like something out of a movie. Like I walked in there by myself, and it's like 7 of them at the end of this conference table. And they're like grilling me and this, that, and next. And then it's like, all right, this is something that needs to be regulated by us. But like that was where we were when I dissolved the business. Fitness, and especially how I did it. Like there were a lot of people doing one-on-one training, right? Like everybody did like personal training, right? And everybody was attached to a gym. And I just didn't want that. And so my business model, and there was a lot of, I guess we call it now haters. Like there are a lot of people like Ethan is a fraud, is a scam. He doesn't even work out with his clients. He's give them one PDF document and it's cookie, like it was all of that. But I had clients that swore for me, like they were like, no, we get results. Like, look at him, like he did this. And now the funny thing is that like that is the industry now. Like, with all of the apps and like online training is literally a lion's share of the industry now. So not this in-person thing, right? And so I guess in that instance, I was a bit ahead of the curve, but like competition, I know they out there, but like they ain't my focus. And so I was actually hurt when people was like, Ethan is a scammer. I was like, me? Like, I don't want to do anything but help. But, because my intentions were in the right place and like I was good with me. And so my thing was, how can I make the experience better? Even with my fitness industry, is like, how can I make the experience better for the client? And that was even a part of where I learned, I guess, one of my most valuable lessons in business is that it's all about the relationship. Because I have guys that I trained with, like that I brought into fitness, that I trained with, like I said, 9, 10 years ago, like literally we still have a group. We call it the Alpha Male Group. And it's literally now, it was a group of all my male clients. And literally we still have that group today. And nobody, like, I'm not even into fitness. And I think nobody doing fitness now. It's built, it's a community. And so, with competition, like I kind of acknowledge them, but I never really focus on them. I kind of see where they are. They like in my peripheral, but it's not like I want to be that one or I want to be that one.
I don't know Ethan in mortgage brokerage. I know Ethan. I met him in fitness. I met him from the one-on-one side. I saw him transition into corporate. He didn't say it, but a big reason for him transitioning into corporate was because I was coming up into the one-on-one online coaching space as well, and I was a direct competitor with his one-on-one business. I was new to the Nassau market as well, so I think he kind of wanted to create space for me to shine. He don't say that, but you know, he's a teddy bear. And so I think across all of his businesses, to the one he's in now, he's always really been, how can I do things differently? I see what my competitors and the people in the industry already who've been here longer than me are doing. I see what they're doing well. I see where they're leaving gaps. And I ain't afraid to cold call and cold email and just roll up on you. I will pull up to your office. I will stop you in the parking lot. He's always been that in every industry, and I think that's why. I think those are, at least from what I've seen. He could tell you more, but
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, and you know, honestly, it's just. First of all, I'm led by what I want to do, right? Like, I really do believe that if you find your passion, you can do your passion, but you have to figure out how to make it profitable. Like, this ain't no starving artist thing. Like, if this is what you want to do, this is what you enjoy doing, how you can make money off of this thing, right? And literally, that was how I got into fitness. Like, it was like, okay, well, I like fitness. Let me reverse engineer how I could actually make money from this thing that I like. It wasn't like, oh, you know, I want to get into fitness. Like, I did like it. You know, even with media, it's like I was always fascinated. I did it as a hobby for years before I officially started my company. And so it's like, okay, well, how can I make this thing make sense? But the biggest thing for me is like, from a business standpoint, is that I literally look at what it is that I want to do and where can I have the biggest impact? Like, where can I have the biggest impact? And that oftentimes means what can I do differently than what everybody else is doing? Because if you do it what everybody else is doing, then you ain't really have a huge impact. I mean, you could just eventually work to be the best at whatever it is that everybody else is doing. But if you do something that everybody else is afraid to do or isn't interested in doing, that's why nobody was doing corporate at the time, because corporate is hard. It's like it was a hard sell, you know, trying to get companies to understand the importance of employee health and wellness in a time where that wasn't what they was into. It's like, that's a hard sell. Whereas I can sell, you know, a one-on-one client on losing 15 pounds. You know, you can't, it's harder to sell a company on investing, you know, $10, $15, $20,000 on a 12-week program for all your employees. What is this going? Like, you can't measure morale, you know. And so I had to do it. You can't, and it's a harder sell, and you have to be able to sell what isn't tangible, because with dealing with corporate and that transition, the biggest thing was intangible, right? And you know, truth be told, it wasn't any more difficult than selling the one-on-one client once you got educated on how to sell. You know, you speak to the pain points. That's the same thing that they tell you in sales. You know, find the pain points, speak to the pain points. Don't talk about the features, talk about the benefits. Talk about the end results. Get them to visualize what their life would be like after the the purchase, right? Or after they go through the program. So, you know, that's kind of been the theme throughout. Yeah, I guess I am a bit of a disruptor.
We talked about your first business,
Right.
what inspired you to get into the mortgage brokerage. We talked about the transition into fitness, one-on-one to corporate. Now, let's talk about the transition. You said corporate took a while to take off. Once you got into the groove of it, I know that there was like a peak point of corporate. And then what happened that made you make the transition to now what was always a passion, media? What kind of made that transition?
All right. So my first stint with media, like I did it as a hobbyist. I bought my first camera back in 2012, right? And I did it more as a hobbyist. And what happened is that when we were doing corporate wellness programs, when we made that switch to corporate, we used to have to run like internal marketing campaigns and like promotional campaigns to promote the corporate wellness programs. And so I started doing that then. You know, I started using media as a way to do that. So we would do Saying that pretty much what we do now. We do like highlight reels and photos and all that so that we could sell. And then I started doing media packages in addition to the regular program. So I'll have like, this is the program cost. Let's say, this program costs $6,500 to run. And then I'll add a $2,000 media package, right? That we could do in addition to. And I remember we ran a wellness program. It was 12 weeks of wellness for Atlantis. And it was 12 weeks. My team were out there. We were doing like 2 fitness sessions a week. My then girlfriend, now wife, was doing the fitness sessions. My partner at the time, Nathan, and I were doing educational sessions. So we were literally over Atlantis for about maybe 4 times a week. And I remember seeing how much Atlantis was paying for media. Like we were doing like, between $1,200 and $1,500 a week just on media. And these dudes were coming out with their cell phone. And like, it was like shitty media. And I was like, I know I could do better than that now. And I just saw how much money we were leaving on the table. And so my company got a contract in 2019 to do a national wellness pilot program for the national wellness program. And we got a 3-month contract, and literally the proceeds from that, I invested into buying my first set of real equipment for media. I literally took a course. It was like a 4-week course at QC Continuing Ed on editing basics and the basics of cinematography and stuff. And then I also officially licensed Lifestyles Digital Media Group, like while we were running that program for the government. And so that is when Lifestyles actually started, officially in March 2019. And then I was still doing the media company because the media company is the bread and the butter. And I'll never forget.
The fitness company.
Yeah, sorry, the fitness company is the bread and butter. And I'll never forget, I was negotiating this, like my first 6-figure deal with
ironically a bank.
A bank, yeah, ironically a bank. Ironically a bank. And I can't remember the exact dates, but let's call it, we met with the head of the bank. Everything was a go. They were supposed to sign off on the Thursday. So we met with them Monday. They were supposed to sign off in the final meeting on Thursday. Wednesday, the country shut down because of COVID. Somebody could check it, but I think that was like March 11th, 2020. Like the country shut down, COVID. And here it is, like I was supposed to get the final sign off on this 6-figure deal with this institution, and it just killed it. And so COVID was an interesting time because naturally it's already hard to sell corporate wellness. Trying to sell corporate wellness in COVID was
when people getting fired.
Yeah, people. I mean, company like literally they said, "Listen, we don't know if we can be open next week. Like, we ain't got time for corporate wellness." And so, but because of my relationship with the then Minister of Health, like with all this stuff coming in, they actually asked me to consult on a white paper for the national response to COVID. And my section was on health and wellness. And I had proposed that, we have to make health and wellness programming readily available for the masses, right? And so I had actually pitched a TV show that was going to be on ZNS, where we would do, a workout and then have some health and wellness education. And just like all things government, it ain't going nowhere. And so now this is, so March, like everything got killed. So now this is like July, June, July, and it's like, okay, money getting tight, like, you running through whatever little savings you had. And so I pitched it to I pitched it to Cable Bahamas and Island Luck TV. Cable Bahamas said, this seems interesting. Do you have a demo? I said, of course I have a demo. So at the time we were filming for DeKal's YouTube channel, which she had launched like the October before in 2019. And we were getting ready to film. So in our apartment building, there was a vacant apartment. So we literally turned our living room. We had a small 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. We literally turned our living room into a studio. So like we moved all the furniture out, put up all kind of sheet and, and lights to make this a set. And there was an apartment next door that was empty. And so I asked the building manager if we could shoot this video there. And literally, if she's being honest, she didn't want to do it. She's like, this is a waste of time. And so she reluctantly indulged me. And literally it was like, all right, instead of saying, welcome to my channel, like say the show at the time was Let's Move with Bowflex Bobby. So I was like, literally just do the scene, like we can do the same work or just do a different intro.
It's morning moves.
Well, it changed to morning moves after the first season.
No, it changed to Let's Move when they started.
Oh, yeah. It was
showing
morning
it.
moves with Bowflex Bobby because we were going to put it on. Yeah,
Yeah.
fact check. That's right, she did.
You don't
So
know why you
no,
tried.
it was morning moves. And so literally she's like, hey, welcome to Morning Moves, Bowflex Bobby. And she did the intro again. And so I took that, cut that up, sent it to Cable, and they're like, oh my God, we love this. And this is something that we want to do. So literally, I launched my first TV show starring my wife. So she did a 20-minute workout. I did a 4-minute or 3.5-minute health and wellness
Education.
segment. And we ran that for 3 seasons. And I think they still playing that on cable.
I like 2 a.m.
Yeah. But
nobody's working out.
we shot that, we did it. And honestly, like that was like, okay, well, this is a thing. Like this could be a thing. And then, around the same time, it's like we realized that more people needed video services. And so like literally lifestyles became like my bread and butter because it was easier to sell video services in COVID than it was to sell corporate wellness. And, like I said, we did that. And that was around the time that I decided, because initially when I started Lifestyles, it was really designed to be an internal media, like content creation machine for her brand and my brand. So like we did everything internally. I think we may have done something with Fitness Connection, which is her brother's company, like once, but during COVID, I really started pushing out and opening up the services to other businesses and brands, like people who needed to get their messages out there. And then that's actually how I transitioned into media. And I remember like when people started calling me back, it's like, oh, well, hey, you're doing fitness and like we ready to do some stuff. I was like, I don't necessarily do that anymore. And so we consolidated that stuff. Like I literally just started moving all that stuff to DeKal with her brand because I then dissolved that business too. Because I realized that when people started calling back, I was like, I actually really enjoy media more now.
He technically kind of sold that to me because anyone he referred, he would send me my invoice for the referral fee. Mm-hmm. He would sell me his contacts. He's like, you need contacts in this? Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. There's one big one that I had. I was like, you got to pay me that referral fee. So like and then, so this is now 2020 and late 2020. So in 2021, honestly, like people, the pandemic was rough for a lot of people, but we made it out pretty well. I made it out pretty solid with Lifestyles, right? And it really did create a new avenue of revenue generation for me. So like I wasn't mad. And then 2021, like literally less than 18 months after, I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm doing. We turned Lifestyles into, a 6-figure business as well. And so that's how I officially got in. And now I would say late last year, or last quarter last year. So with lifestyles, like we pretty much did everything in terms of video content. The only thing we didn't do was weddings and like funerals. Even though I priced a funeral, but like I priced it super high because I was like, I don't want to do it. I can make it worth it. But like we never did weddings. So like a lot of companies, they kind of do a little bit of everything. Like, you know, they do this, that, and next. But like last year, we decided to really just focus on corporate, niche down, and that's what it is. And we moved everything towards now. Even now, like our whole thing is our whole tag is we're corporate content specialists. So we specialize in creating corporate content. I'll tell you this. Like the reality is, like I didn't even know that was a thing, right? And a good sounding board of mine, you know, I'd say friend turned client turned business partner, Jonathan. That's something that Jonathan wave. That's something that, you know, he's like, you know, that's his thing, right? Like we're actually working on something now, but like as far as, you know, building the business so that it's sellable, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you will sell it, but the reality is that if you build a sellable business, that is a sound business. And so understanding that now is like, I mean, I'll tell you this off the bat. Like I have no intentions of selling lifestyles because I think lifestyles is really the summation of everything that I have done in my life now. It combines my analytical and creative minds, and it's something that is building, but I am building it to something that would be of value to some, like I want to build it not to sell it, but I want to build it and maybe, you know, build it so that not necessarily sell it to somebody outside, but the team that's helping me build it could buy it, you know. And so but I didn't know that was an option. I didn't know that was a thing. Like it's almost like the epiphany that I had with bodybuilding and fitness in the building, like the bodies here when I went to that first bodybuilding show. Like I didn't know you could buy and sell businesses here. And that's why I told you before we started, like me and you gotta talk, because that's something that I know me and my network are very interested in pursuing here, right? And so that's definitely something, but I didn't know, like you just don't know that that's an option when you just learning that you got to pay national insurance as a 24, like you don't know that these things is something, right? And so, yeah, no, definitely.
I'm also in short-term.
Yeah, you know thing, man. You know thing. I know one of the things that my coach told me was that, especially if you're talking about, if you have a successful business now and you're looking now, you have this liquid cash that you can invest in and you have the ability to buy other businesses. His whole strategy is by complementing businesses to the business that you have. So like I'm in media. So maybe the next thing is to buy a network, right? Or something like that. But it wouldn't be, all right, I'm in media, go buy a restaurant. And honestly, with the way the content is set up now, media is one of the highest valued businesses. I feel that because every business needs media, every business needs content. And so honestly, that's why I don't think I'd sell it. Like media automatically brings value to every business. Like Gary Vee says, regardless of what industry you're in, you need to be a media company specializing in that industry's content. So the Keller's in fitness. And I honestly think that, well, not I think, I know that's why her brand has been able to grow internationally, locally. Like she has the most recognizable fitness brand in the country, simply because of the media component that we've invested in. You know, so like that's why I really feel that I wouldn't necessarily sell lifestyles, but I would definitely be open to buying other businesses that one complement that, and that, the media component could add tremendous value to. There's no such thing as free money. Just because somebody wants to invest and you need the money, don't mean that you should let them invest. Like understanding, and it isn't even from a valuation standpoint, like I understand my value. There's always strings attached, buddy. Like nobody is that, everybody has an agenda that serves them, and shit hits the fan when one, you aren't aware of their agenda, and then it doesn't align with their agenda. If there's a alignment of agendas, then that's harmony, right? Like that makes sense. And so my biggest mistake was at 24 being smitten by, oh, somebody wants to give me money and invest in me. And to this day, that I think, despite what I learned from that individual, that has been one of the worst decisions, because that haunts me to this day. Because it's something that they hang kind of over your head, right? And so all money ain't good money. Understand that. And just because somebody wants to give you money, like you have to understand what their agenda is. Like why you give, like what is it? It ain't nobody's just going to give you, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars out of the kindness of their heart because they like you as a person. What are the strings attached? What are the conditions? And get the paperwork. Like don't get nothing at face value. Like get the paperwork, get an understanding. Because everything is fine once the money is flowing. But the minute shit hit the fan, if you're in CYA, like we used to have that saying in the bank, cover your ass, like you can get left out to dry. And so that was a major mistake for me. Just being intoxicated by the idea that somebody saw enough value in me to give me money, and not drilling down deeper and really understanding the cost, the true cost, not this is the interest free or the 5%, like what is the true cost of me taking this money? I could say now that the greatest single thing that's contributed to my success in business is understanding the value of relationships. Like understanding that, and when I say understanding the value of relationships, understanding that the point of me being in a relationship is to serve and bring value to that person. And so all of my relationships, especially in business, but even, personal, platonic, like whatever it is like I lead with how can I add value to this person? So, I wake up every morning, how can I serve? How can I add value to my wife? My team members, how can I add value to them? Like what is it that they want to do? How can them being in this relationship with me add value? My clients, like how can I add value? Like what can I do to increase the value that I bring to them? And I would say that realization has been my greatest success, because it has brought me the most success in terms of, monetary and otherwise. Like relationships is the best currency there is. I think one of the most challenging things that I have ever done, learning to trust myself.
It's a little fluffy.
Why I say learning to trust myself, right? And it's like so in Sarah Lecter's book, 3 Feet from Gold, they talk about the difference between believing and knowing, right? There's a difference between, I believe that I go out there, my car gonna be there. And so you kind of walking cautiously, or I believe that if I walk on this bridge, it ain't gonna fall. So even though you believe that it's not gonna break under you, you still walk kind of cautiously. You can take the step, but it can be different than when you know. And so the knowing is more powerful than believing, right? And I think that was one of the biggest challenges with me, because, like I have this thing where I question whether or not I'm enough in life. Like, am I enough? enough for my wife? Am I a good enough father? Am I a good enough team leader? Am I a good enough friend? Am I good enough? Right? And just knowing that and trusting myself to know that I can make the decisions that are going to get me where I need to be. Like that was the biggest thing because, you know, a lot of us don't trust ourselves. Like I didn't trust myself. So I would check with this one, check with that one, check with this one, check with that one. Need to get this approval, need to get this permission, need to get this sign off, need to talk to this one. But it's like just trusting that I know that I will make the right decision. And even if I don't, it's okay. Like just trusting myself to fuck up. Like trusting me to act in what I feel is the best interest of all parties involved, including myself, and being okay and knowing that even if it is not the right decision, it would still turn like that was the biggest thing for me because I used to be really, really afraid of fucking up. And that would paralyze me and that would hold me hostage. But that was the biggest thing for me. It's like, and then akin to that was what this one can say. Like other people being held hostage by other people's opinions of me was another big thing. Like getting over that. Like, and not so much that, you know, I ain't talking about the people hating on Facebook or the chatter around. I'm talking about what is my wife going to think? You know, what are my friends going to think? What are my team members going to think? What is my mom going to think? But like, because you could be held hostage by that. And just really getting over that and saying, you know what? I really feel that this is the best decision and trusting that I am making the best decision based on the information and experiences that I have to this point. And like really committing to that decision and just going, despite what my wife may think or feel, or my friends may think or feel, or whoever is in my camp may think or feel. And that's why I say like learning to trust myself was the biggest challenge that I had to overcome. I did like continuing education, but I mean, as far as, so I dropped out of college. I think I don't even know, I think I was like 12 credits shy. I was like a semester and a half shy of getting my bachelor's. And I remember I was at NSU and I was like, I don't really want to do this no more. Like, I think I can get, like, I know what I want to do in life, like, and I think this is taking away from that. And so, you know, I have challenges with quote unquote formal education like that. But I do believe that learning is paramount. Like you got to learn, you got to educate yourself. I do believe in the acquisition of specialized knowledge, like things that, like the continuing education program at QC is like, I wanted to learn video editing. And so I did a course and I got information on that. And then and I give credit, Jonathan, to this too, because like I learned different. I'm a slow reader, so I never used to like to read books. And I used to actually kind of snicker because he does a lot of audiobooks. And I was like, dude, I ain't reading, buddy. But I realized that it's just that people acquire knowledge or take in knowledge in different ways. And I went from reading like 10 pages a year to I think I'm probably up to like just under 20 books for the year so far. And I realized that I actually learn. It's a more efficient way for me to learn because I listen to audiobooks while I work out. I listen to it. I don't really listen to it in the car, but typically while I'm working out, I listen to audiobooks. And so...
What type of audiobooks?
Mostly business and professional development. And so I've done everything from, $100 Million Leads, from Alex Hormozi, Principles from Ray Dalio, Shoe Dog from the Phil Knight story. I'm listening to Steve Jobs now from Walter Isaacs. Lots. Like I could go through, like literally, and every time I just listen. 48 Laws of Power. Buy back your time. Like there's so much. And the funny thing is that I listen, and I have my Google Docs app open on my phone, so I make notes as I'm listening. And literally every book that I listen to, I actually buy the physical copy. Because people discount people, like I tell people, oh, I'm reading this book now. I'm doing it, and I get the smirk, like, but we know you ain't reading it, you listening to it. But I mean, it's like whatever, right? But I have the physical copy because now I have that physical representation of the knowledge that I've acquired. And so literally every book that I listen to, I actually buy the physical copy. And then it's good to kind of flip through and stuff like that. 10X rule from Grant Cardone, Crushing It, Gary Vee. So I like a lot of stuff, but I've actually gotten turned on to like biographies and autobiographies now of billionaires, because I'm a firm believer that you become what you study. If you study accounts, you become an accountant. You study law, you become a lawyer. I think if I study billionaires, I'll become a billionaire. There's a trick that I wanted to learn, that I wanted to try that I haven't tried yet. Is
Listen and read.
Listen and read at the same time. But it's crazy because I listen, and like I said, I make notes. So like sometimes my notes from a book, be 10, 12 pages. Like, because when I hear something, oh, that makes sense. And then I play it back and that's something, blah, blah, blah. And so like I literally, all of the books that I've read, I have like sheets of notes that I take from it. And sometimes, you take one or two things. So to answer your question, like I believe that learning is important. I do believe that.
You've attended the 10X conference as well.
Yeah. Investing in your personal development is important. So one of the things that I did was spend a shitload of money going to a 3-day business boot camp from Grant Cardone. And so I went to a conference, and I wanted to get the full experience, so I splurged for the VIP, and it was totally worth it. But literally that 3-day immersive conference with Grant, I really respect Grant. I like him. He's one, like, if you don't know, like, Grant is a big sales guy. But I had the opportunity to actually have lunch with him, sit with him, ask him questions. And that was what took my media company, that put me on the next track to carry me to the next level. Because his whole thing is a 10X. And so like before then, I only had one product. Like I did, two, video and photography. And it was like, his whole thing is, take whatever it is that you're doing now and multiply it by 10. So, that's your goal for the next year. So if you have 2 products, you got to get 20. So literally in the conference, I had to come up with 20 products. By the time as I left, I had 20 products. So it wasn't just photo and video. It was meet the team and behind the brand and, lifestyle and branding photo shoots and corporate headshots. All right, I got 2 employees now, I got to get 20. I have, I'm doing 10,000 a month. I got to get to 100,000 a month. So you 10X all of that. But not only goals, you got to 10X the adversity as well. You got to 10X the actions. And so investing in that conference really made a difference. And then, we invested in their training program called Cardone U. So it's a training program for your team. And so I really believe in education. Like you gotta learn shit. And honestly, like really tapping into your network, being strategic and intentional about the people that you surround yourself with. I mean, Dawn and I know I called John the name a couple of times, but like these guys, what I've learned from them just in conversation. Like when I was before I left, so like start of 2022, I was like, I want to be a millionaire. There's nobody in my circle that's a millionaire. And so I want to, by the end of this year, have 5 millionaires that I have personal relationships with that I could have as my network. And 2 of them here. And these are guys, like, it's never been a situation where, hey, let me want slow 10 grand, but just their mindset, what they think, how they move. And before I looked at them as, mentors or like they were above me. Now I look at them as friends, as peers. Because I approach this relationship, how can I add value to them as well? So yeah, I don't want it to just be one-sided where I just picking your brain all the time. But like literally, they're friends now. Jonathan and I are business partners. And that's something that you set up intentionally. Like that don't just accidentally happen. And so I learn a lot just from my relationship with, these two guys that I care about a lot. No, they know that. They know that. But I mean, that's what it is. And they challenge me, and they call me out on my bullshit, and they like, all right, pop, pop. But I learn from them, and then I take what I learn, and I add value to them as well in different ways. And so now it's like, okay, well, all right, we got it. I'll tell you, I mean, my top has shifted from, I guess, season to season.
Your top ones for communicating with everybody else. Like if everybody else read it,
These are just the universal language.
Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Like that's everything that you hear on personal development and business is based pretty much from that book. And then, I mean, I would have to say 10x rule. I would have to say 10x rule from Grant Cardone, because I wouldn't. It's a business book in terms of they talk about sales, but honestly, like it's a life book. It's like and I have this thing where, and I can't remember if I heard it somewhere, I read it somewhere, if I made it up myself. I like to believe I made it up myself, but it's pretty much that the principles of success are universal, regardless of what area in your life is that you're trying to be successful in. If you focus on an area of your life that you are successful in, because nobody sucks at everything, there's something that you are actually good at. There's some area of your life that you excel at. And if you look at the characteristics or the qualities or the steps that made you successful in this particular area, and you use that as a blueprint, you can be successful and apply that blueprint to other areas of your life. You can be successful as well in any area of your life. And that's actually something that DeKel and I do every year. We have a kind of a retreat for New Year's. But this year, we talk about our goals and shit like that. But this year, we actually really, we mapped our own personal blueprint for success. Because for everybody is different. And so we said, okay, well, what was the biggest success, like your biggest win? Call it a win. What was your biggest win for 2023? And so she said what hers was. I said what mine was. And I said, now let's reverse engineer that. What did you do to achieve that? And I think with hers, we came up with what, like 13, 14?
Isn't that many steps?
Anyway, it was a step. This is what I did. So we reverse engineered it. And I came up with my own. But our own are completely different. But I do believe that the principles of success are universal. And so that's why I like the 10x rule, because you can take the principles that Grant outlines in that book and apply it to any area of your life, and you will see growth.
All right.
We all read it, so we can all have that comment.
That's my 2 books.
Before we wrap, I have one more, I guess, topic. We didn't touch on, I guess, where you are right now in the media company. I know you are at the point you are building out your team. You made a lot of big changes over the last almost year, from studio space to actually intentionally filling positions on the team. Give us a snapshot of, I guess, where you are now and where you want to take Lifestyles.
All right. So, well, we've been in our space. Shit, I've been paying rent there for a year. But it's funny because just last April, so April 2023, I made the decision that I had to move lifestyles out of our spare bedroom in our house because I had at the time a full-time team member. Literally, she would be coming to our house every morning to work in our spare bedroom, where we had the office.
It was
set
an
up.
actual office. Don't make it sound
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
an office. No, it's a legit office, but it's a spare bedroom.
It was, yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I know I wanted to grow the team. I was like, it's already 3 of us in here. We can't have it. And then I had my studio, like where we do photo and video shoots. And what was the
like a dining
It was
room.
the dining room at one point. So we literally reconfigured it, turned it into a studio. And I was like, all right, we had one shoot there. It was like 15 people. People was parking on the neighbors. I was like, this ain't making no sense. The girl was like, you can't have all. So anyway,
That's how I sound.
Sort of. So we had to, like I was like, I need to move the space. So the first step was to get the everyday people out. And so I got a space at so this was April. I got the space at Incudas, the co-work space out west.
What? Competition?
I was going to say, I hope you don't say it.
But it was out west.
I love competition.
And then I was like, so there's 3 of us in there. And I was like, this is small, this ain't, like we can't grow in here. And so I decided that I wanted to get a space that I can consolidate. Because at that time, then we had the shared workspace. We had the office in NQS. We had a warehouse where we stored all of our gear at Caribbean Storage. And then we had the studio at home in our house out west. And so I was like, all right, I need to first find a place where I can consolidate all this. And then we found a space in AIP. And so we got it. I didn't know. I was like, I need to find a space. Before I had a dollar, I started looking, found a space, money magically appeared. And I was like, let me get the space. Didn't know how I was going to build it out. But about 70 days later, we built it out. And then I was like, all right, well, now it's just me in this space. Even before then, I knew what I needed for a team, right? Because I know I needed somebody who could handle production while I focus on sales. And we were looking around, and I enlisted the help of Dawn. Dawn is a master interrogator. And so literally, he came from his big corporate job, and he sat with me and Dekel on a Saturday while I interviewed people for this first very important production job. And he's a master assessor of people. Like he could tell you this person, he breaks it down like that. And he said, this is the guy you should have. Like this is the guy. And that guy was Tyler. And so Tyler joined the team while we were in transition from moving from house to studio. So some days he would come by the house. Some days he'd have to be Cape Bahamas and BPL by the studio. And, we were kind of working out of there even before we finished. So Tyler was working literally from a fold-up desk. He had a laptop and one of the prop chairs that we use for photo shoots. And that's where he was. And then we got equipment and, we started like literally, it was me and him setting up, like putting together furniture and stuff like that. And so we got in. I had, in my mind, it was always 5 people in there. And so around April, we were like, all right, we need another person and we need, because I'm still going on shoots with Tyler, this, that, and next. And then in comes this, we interviewed, and in comes this tree-hugging hippie guy who, one of the things that Dawn again, I was like, hey, how do you hire? Because he didn't sit on that interview. And his whole thing was he hires for attitude and and trains for aptitude. And that's Alex there, by the way. He has one of the best attitudes. He's super positive. I call him kind of hippie triangle, but he's like a solid guy. Like his attitude, he instantly, lifted the spirits of the team because he's very spiritual. And so, it was three guys. And so we were in there and it was like, okay, well, after being inspired by Don Martell's Buy Back Your Time, I was like, okay, well, I need help now with this thing. So we, put out the application again, but put out the notice that I was looking for an executive assistant. And, it came down to two people. And one of them, I was like, I don't know, this ain't gonna work. She a little too bubbly. I ain't think this can work. I said, anyway, let me see. And
Have you ever told her that?
yeah. I did.
Okay, I'm just making sure this ain't the first time hearing that.
And, Tab came in and I could honestly, like, and I told her that, hey, like this position operates as an extension of me, right? And when I say I really feel that Tab operates not only as an extension of me, but she makes me work better because she is on top of it. Like this is what I need, Bob. And she gets, what I love is, so everybody's a bit different, but I think Tab is a bulldog. Like she can't stop until it's done. And mind you, everybody zones in, but like Tab, sometimes you check the camera, it's like, but it's 6:30, 7:30, why are you still there? And I get it because she can't stop until it's done. And so, she came on and it's like when I say now, I understand what it means to have a quality team. And mind you, the team, so Tab joined in June, like mid-June. So all of this happened in I'm talking about a couple of months. November, April, June. Like we're looking for another person now. But the team that we were at the end of June is nothing compared to the team that we are on September 18th. And a lot of that is one of our core values. Which core value are you talking about, Alex?
Intentional growth and improvement.
Right.
That's it.
And that's the I in our core
Attitude right
values.
there.
But I say that and honestly, and so, and this is how everything is composed. But that's why your circle need to be so like Alex, I could say like has challenged me the most because he's asked a lot of questions. And what is obvious or what I assume he should know, he doesn't know, right? And that's just anybody in there. Like you can't assume everybody knows. And I remember one time, but I called John and I was like, but I don't know, but like, how you know when you need to let somebody go? John didn't say, well, why you gotta let them go? I said, because they just ain't getting it. Well, it's your fault they ain't getting it. He said, because it means that you haven't trained them to the point where they get it. And I was so frustrated. And that's when I took ownership. I said, you know what? It is my fault. And so because of understanding where we want to go, like we want to build a company to $100 million company. And so we have to act now as if we are, right? And what that means to me is not fake it till you make it. That means lay the foundation that a $100 million company is going to be built on today. And really, Alex is the primary inspiration for why we started Lifestyles University, which is our in-house training program, where after months of Jonathan telling me, you gotta do SOPs, you gotta do SOPs, you gotta do SOPs.
That's how Jonathan sounds?
Yeah, sometimes. Like, so like now we started doing SOPs. And like we have an SOP for everything. And well, we're building out the SOPs for everything. But, having that collaborative spirit right now is key. And even when it was just me and Tyler, like we would go back and forth. We's like, we bringing on this turbine, like we got to protect our energy. Like we have this thing going on. We don't want nobody coming fuck up this dynamic. Like this is me and you. two niggas with a camera, like it's us. And then Alex came. Then Alex came, and it's like, all right, he came in.
You
and he's
can't
like,
say that no more.
No, I was gonna tell you what we said now.
Don't. I know.
But it was like, all right, we got this thing. We got this click. We got this energy. Like, we can't let nobody come and mess this up. And it's like, we got to bring this other person in. So now it's like, Tab is here. Oh, wow. Okay, this works. All right, now we got this thing. Can't let nobody. And so, like, literally as we go, we're building culture, right? And we have, and the good thing is that everybody on the team buys into the vision, and they're equally as protective of the energy that we have. And so, like, if it ain't feel right, like, they get it. Like, nah, I think this ain't feel right. And so that's where we are now as far as building a team, building a culture where we are operating as if we are today. And so we do have, like, we're actively looking for one more team member immediately. And we have plans we're getting ready to expand the studio to the space next door. And so literally in less than a year plus, like, we're already talking about doubling the size of the studio. And that's a build out, and that's something, but it's like one of those things where, like, literally in the next 5 years, like, I told Ted the other day, I said, we got to start looking for property because we got to look for some place to build our complex. And so that's really what the plan is over the next, I'd say 3 to 5, is to have an actual complex, talking about, 30, 40, 50,000 square foot complex, the likes of which has not been seen here before, where we can do everything from, all types of digital media, so photography, film, voice, but really be a place where we could utilize to advance our cause, but also a resource for everybody, locally and internationally, to come and really maximize it. And so that's where we're planning on going. I'd say the strategy off the bat was to have a team of generalists with specialized focus. So everybody on the team knows how to use a camera at varying levels of skill. But production-wise, Tyler's production team lead, so him and Xander pretty much handle all video stuff now. Post-production. So he shoots, he edits, he does photography, film. Same thing with Xander. Xander is our BTS specialist. Tab knows how to set a camera. She knows how to take a photo. She is very proficient in BTS as well. So because, like, Tab handles scheduling for everything, right? And so we try not to have a situation where every day we on a shoot, because everybody that's on a shoot has to do post-production as well. And so we kind of stagger it. And so some days you may walk in, everybody has their headphones on, they locked in, and it's super quiet. Or some days, like today, we had a shoot for a new personal branding client. And so we got Afro Beats blazing on the speaker because it's doing a photo shoot and it's, super light environment. But so every day is kind of different, because it could be a situation where we're shooting corporate headshots for a client, or we doing event coverage, or it could be a situation where Tyler's in New York with a personal branding client, or these guys hopping on a plane to go cover Jonathan in Harbor Island or go on a key. And it's like, so it really is, it depends. So it isn't like, what a typical day would be, we always do the morning huddle. And then it's like, if we have a shoot, who needs to go on the shoot goes on the shoot. Or if we have to do a walkthrough, or if it is like, okay, well, we have some stuff that we need to knock out, we adjust the schedule to accommodate for us to just knock out stuff. So literally you could walk in, like we've had people walk in and they'd be like, "It's always this quiet in here," because literally everybody has on headphones. Like even Tab, like everybody has on headphones, and they locked in because we got to push out content. But everybody on the team edits, everybody on the team shoots, and that's photography and video.
Well-rounded.
Yeah, no, I like the intention was to have a team of generalists with specialized
Right.
focus.
Okay, another question. So what was the business model with the exercise show? Does Cable Bahamas pay you for making a show, or did you make money off of ads? Or?
So we produced the show and we sold it to cable. That was our first show. We had a second show that actually aired on Tempo. Well, we did 3 episodes of that, and we sold production. You know what? No. Okay, and we sold. So we actually we sold production up front. So we somebody paid us to produce the show for Tempo, but with
The workout
Morning
show.
Moves with the workout show, we sold it to
Cable.
cable. So we produced the entire thing.
It was a bit of both.
Yeah.
You sold it, and then we also sold ads
Yeah,
as well.
and I mean, yeah,
Or placement. So placement in the show.
yeah. So
Like product placement.
Yeah, so we did like we had a company sponsor different segments. So like my health and wellness segment at the end, we sold the rights to that. So we had, I mean, if anybody knows TV, you have on a 30-minute show, you got 24 minutes of content that you produce with 6 minutes that you can sell. Now, Cable Bahamas, they would buy the show at call it a wholesale rate per episode, and then you would do a split, which is typically a 70-30 split, 70 to cable, 30 to you if they sell it. And then it was something like 40 to them, 60 to us if we sold ad placement. And so to kind of get around that, what I did was I sold a 4-minute segment within the actual 24 minutes. And so that was a direct to me. I didn't have to split that. And then pretty much they just, and then I think we may have taken maybe about a minute and a half for some internal stuff that we did. Like we had some Hub brand stuff in there.
So how many seasons did it last? Like
3.
Seasons did you do?
3 seasons.
And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, it was 3 seasons, but we renegotiated because the first season, like we get juice. Because the first season, we did 36 episodes because they were airing 3 times a week. And like the amount of money that we got paid per episode. So like second season, we had to renegotiate. And as a part of that renegotiation, we had to cut it down from 36 episodes to 24 episodes so that we could cover production costs. But because we had production in-house, we didn't have to technically up front.
So if they placed the ads themselves, you didn't get anything? Like
No.
regular commercial breaks?
Yeah, they did our placement, we didn't get anything. What happens now?
Thank you so much, Mr. Quant.
Uh,
I think. I wanted to. I learned a little bit tonight about you. Most of that stuff I did know, but I really enjoyed you addressing your biggest struggle, being trusting yourself. And I want to say that I've seen you grow in that and grow through that, to trusting yourself more, and that I am proud to have been able to witness that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Remember, she called it
Yeah.
It got deeper. The more he went on, it got deeper. So thank you. Are there any words you would like to leave with our audience today?
I guess the biggest thing is like, just do it, like the inaction is still action. Like deciding to do nothing or doing nothing is you deciding not to do something. And so, like, just do it. Surround yourself with awesome people, and like, don't be afraid to mess up. Like, fail fast, learn faster, and keep it moving. Like, that's what I would say.
Thank you so much.